Hi guys, it's Don from Sounds Fair Magazine here. Just had a wonderful chat with Ryan Shuck about his background, obviously in Orgy, Dead by Sunrise with Chester Bennington. Obviously he's now in Adema, sort of carrying the legacy of that band with him, which again, and talking a little bit about his kind of his background and what he's been through as an artist. Some of the struggles he's been through. It was really revealing, and I really thank Ryan for his honesty and the passion that he exhibited when he's talking about Adema and talking about some of the things he's done before. I do apologise, I'm a little ill through this interview, so I apologise for that. I can see that I look ill now, but I appreciate your time for watching this, and thank you to Ryan for his time as well. And I can't wait to see Adema over in Europe in the future. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you soon. Again, yeah, cheers for being here. Before we get into the Adema stuff, man, because I mean that's obviously a big part of your life now. You've got quite a history in a lot of different bands, and I wanted to ask you about your definition of success because it means different things to different people, and it can mean different things to you as a person, to you as an artist. And so I want to ask you, given your history in bands from like Orgy going all the way back there, Dead by Sunrise, to now being with Adema, Julien-K as well. How do you define success? What does it mean to you as a person and as an artist, if they're different things?
They're quite similar. I used to think of success when I was a kid in my bedroom in Taft, California, small, hot desert town outside of Bakersfield. I used to watch on my little tube TV with rabbit ears. I used to watch Arsenio Hall and David Letterman and Conan O'Brien, and I would see my favorite bands. I remember Megadeth played on Arsenio Hall. And I was like, that is such a cool thing, a heavy metal band like Megadeth on Arsenio Hall. I thought that was commercially successful. And it was the stuff that I loved breaking through. And I would always, stay up late and watch the musical performances. And I thought to myself, man, if I ever was able to be on something like this, that would just be the pinnacle of success. Like, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm, like packing up my bags, and I'm just like, there's nothing bigger. And obviously Arsenio Hall is not on TV anymore, but Conan O'Brien, David Letterman, and Jimmy Kimmel, and all the things that have been very relevant current, even though they're, Conan O'Brien and David Letterman are recently, gone, but those are the biggest things ever. I've played all of them now. And multiple times. And I remember being on stage thinking, well, this should be it. I should be done. I should be done with music. This is the whole deal. I've achieved my goals. I sold a couple of million albums in multiple genres, in multiple bands. I should be like done. I should be done. I should be doing something different, And it's an interesting thing because it really doesn't end. And all those things that you sort of thought were the pinnacles really aren't the pinnacles. And then you start trying to think, what is the pinnacle then? And I look at what I'm doing now and all the struggle that it's taken to get here and become a completely independent musician and, taking control of a brand like Adema, where they've really been walking in the desert for 10 years. They've really struggled. They've, been left high and dry by their founding, lead singer, Marky. And they've had a couple of other guys sing for the band that all had loads of problems and didn't follow through. And, that's a challenging thing to step in there and take that and go, okay, let's make this legitimate. Let's make this something that fans can count on. I am getting to the answer in a very long...
No, take your time. It's all part of the answer, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's all important because, defining success isn't super simple, so, and then you look at Julien-K, which is really the ashes of Orgy, and being in Orgy, again, you're in a band that sold millions of albums, and we were selling out every show, and then to just have it fall apart because one guy doesn't want, has some idea about not doing it or doesn't want to do it with us or whatever it is. And so for years, we just sit there and not do anything. In the meantime, we start Dead by Sunrise with Chester Bennington. We start, Julien-K and all this kind of stuff. And then we fast forward now, we've released 7 albums. We've toured the world multiple times in all the bands. Adema is going to be going to Europe next year, early next year. So this is all huge stuff. And it's all since, I took complete control of everything. And it's a concept called, extreme ownership. There's even a book about it, which is really good, by the way. And I think that success is truly owning your entire situation. And it isn't owning it as in, I have 100%, all the money's mine. That's not what I mean. You own the problems, you own the solutions, you own the upside, and you own the downside. You own the complaints, and you own the fucking praise.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand that. When I go into all these situations now, I understand clearly that there are going to be people that hate me, hate what I'm doing, have problems, so on and so forth. I just factor that into that's life. But I also know that I'm really good at what I do. I have a lot to offer. And at the end of the day, if I do what I do, my music resonates and people dig it. And I think that it's turned all these like multi-platinum, big things that you would dream of having. And we kind of ended up losing them because of one member here or there, whether it's, Jay Gordon, just kind of disappearing from Orgy and then just magically reappearing with not Orgy and calling it Orgy, or whether it's the loss of my best friend Chester to suicide. Those are all situations where you're like, fuck, our whole business destroyed.
Yeah.
And, now we're in a situation where it's very indie. It's much smaller. We're in complete control, and I can go play and make music directly with my fans to the tune of enough to maintain a studio like this in Southern California. I live at the beach, have a cool house, and we can tour all over the world now. And I got to tell you, in some ways, it's better than we were when we were on a major and all this stuff. We had a team of people handling all this stuff. Are there things that I miss about that? Sure. But, right now, no one can take this from me.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one can take it.
That's a beautiful thing.
That's success. That's when no one can take this away. I can weather any shitstorm. I can weather any one group of people turning us down or whatever, because it doesn't matter. The deal is with me and the fans of our music. The deal is with us and the fans of our music. No one else can get in between that. And they know me and I know them. And that's a very, very powerful and special situation.
Yeah, beautiful relationship you've cultivated there. And I think that moves on nicely to my next question. I know you can't speak for the rest of Adema or the rest of your bandmates in those other bands, but I'm curious to ask, how have you changed and developed from where you were? You mentioned, understanding extreme ownership, taking control. Those are all, elements of this next question. But what have you learned about yourself from the very beginning of your career? How would you say you've changed and developed, and what have you learned about yourself to, getting to where you are now?
Loads and loads and loads. Stop blaming other people for everything that's happening. Look at yourself and blame yourself. And also, once you start figuring out what these problems are or what your role in them is, accept it and move on. I used to dwell on, bad things and negative shit a lot. And I definitely had a lot of reasons why things weren't working for me, or really good things are happening and then they weren't happening. And there's definitely a lot of blame to go around. And I think that those are major things that have changed. I have a pretty big appetite. I'm involved in a lot of things. I have other businesses. I have restaurants. I have all this kind of stuff. I've come to kind of realize that maybe that's not always the best thing to do. I used to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Now it's a whole lot of, carefully trimming away all the stuff that, I think that I did a lot of this stuff just because I was afraid of being poor.
Okay.
I grew up poor. I don't want to be poor again. So I was looking to make money at every, if I look in your direction, I want, $200. I want to make money doing everything. And I still do that a lot. I don't do stuff for free. I don't even do a lot of press. You know, I don't want to spend my time doing things that won't directly correlate into increasing like my artistic output, which then increases my business output and financial return. So, but you know, some is worth it, you know, but, you know, I'm much more careful about this stuff. You know, I used to, you know, we put out a single, I would spend, you know, 2 weeks of 8-hour days just doing press.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, now we don't. You know, we'll go on tour and literally not do an interview, you know, whereas I used to go on tour and, you know, 4 hours of my day was like doing interviews and stuff like that. So these are all things. I'm not trying to say interviews aren't good. And obviously I'm happy to be here. I think it's actually quite fun sometimes, but 8 hours of it can be not fun. And it can be detrimental to the productivity. And also, you know, because I know how to do a lot of these businesses, just when someone comes with a rad idea, me just going like, yeah, that's awesome. I think we can make, you know, $20,000 a month doing this. You know, that's not necessarily worth me saying yes to.
Yes.
You know, because it might utterly cost me the very little time I have to do the music.
Yeah.
You know, and do the things that I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make there, and that was, you know, going to be my next question. We will move on to Adema stuff as well, but part of my day job is working with young people who struggle with their own self-image and they struggle with that confidence. They might look at you and be like, "Well, I'm never going to tour the world, and I'm never going to do that," and they really struggle with that. And I wonder, you strike me as a confident person. You know, I've watched your creativity over the years as a fan of a lot of your projects. Have you always been that way? Have you always been that confident? And what would be your message to any young person that looks at you as pedestal your excuse me, pedestal your work, and he's really struggling with that confidence, but looks to you and thinks, you know, I'm not going to do that. What would your message be to them?
I'm not as confident as I appear, and I never have been. And I think that people that struggle need to understand that the people that you think are confident are also struggling.
Yeah.
And a lot of the personality that I create and the things that I do are to combat the fact that I am actually shy.
Okay.
I actually am uncomfortable in situations. Like I train jujitsu, for example. When I come back from tour, it takes me, it's been a week and a half and I haven't gone back to jujitsu. Why? I actually get really, because I'm not in it and I'm not doing it every day and I'm not forcing myself to do it, I get really scared to get back into it and converse with people and be one-on-one and connect with people and choke them or get choked. And, you know, I mean, all of that's, by the way, really fucking healthy to do.
Yes.
You need to go get choked and choke people. You need to lay on people and be laid on uncomfortably. You need to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. So I do a whole lot of struggling and being kind of alone that people don't see.
Okay.
And then I do a whole lot of sort of preparing myself and getting myself into like, look, you got to get it back together. You got to build your calendar out today. You've got to put, you know, these activities in the evening because you're just starting to kind of spiral into depression. And I'm actually dealing with it right now. It's common for me when I get off a tour to get into this mode where I really struggle to get back into reality. And, you know, I create a beautiful cage for myself, you know, a beautiful gilded cage. So I think the key is just to understand that, you know, a lot of people are struggling. The people that are just confident, gung-ho, and it's just like no fucking reason are typically delusional narcissists. And you don't want to be that. You want to know that everything you achieve is precious. You want to know that everything's hard. You have to look at hard and you have to go good.
Yeah.
You know, when something bad happens, a lot of times I'll literally go, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. We'll figure out how to deal with it. But you have to train and develop a mentality.
Yeah.
It isn't just given to you. You have to practice a mentality. You have to learn it. You have to understand and be comfortable with the fact that this stuff is uncomfortable. And the more you practice it, the better you get at it. And that would be my recommendation to people is don't be afraid to try stuff. Don't be afraid to go fail at stuff. Treat it like a game.
Yeah.
And so you don't become a fucking sociopath or act like one. Remember to be kind to people. You know, and be kind to yourself. Don't just go out, oh, I'm playing a game and be mean. No. But go practice stuff and don't be afraid to apologize if you get something wrong or whatever. Don't be afraid to own your mistakes and then move on. and you've got to get into that mentality. When I have kids, and I'm trying, it's actually like fucking blowing up the Death Star. I'm learning. It's really fucking hard. When I have kids, if I can teach them anything, it's going to be you have to playfully approach a mentality of stoicism and a mentality of accepting problems and a mentality of experimenting and trying things and putting yourself in difficult situations. And you can do it. You can find more playful ways to do it. Jiu-jitsu would be a great example, of a moderately playful way to go get uncomfortable. Working out is another. Going to a class, like a workout club with people, is a playful, relatively easy way to go get yourself uncomfortable. There's a lot of ways that don't cost money too. So you got to just go practice and know that you're going in and just going. You're kind of fear setting. You're going in and going like, I'm going to practice this. Yeah. And I have to do it. I have to practice what I preach. I'm telling you right now, and I've been struggling with it all week, but I know, give myself a break, because I know that I'm going to start going. And once I start going, I'm going to go hard and I'm going to come out of it. And then I'm going to go on tour again. And then I'm going to eat shit again afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that. I know it.
Yeah. But you can control it. You have an understanding of it. And I think the reason why I asked you that question was, when I was younger, watching Orgy and the imagery around that, Dead by Sunrise, same thing. The imagery was it looked so cool, and the industry is so geared around perception. And you're talking about some of the realities here. How you've taken ownership of that stuff, and it's not easy to do.
No.
And that's really, I appreciate your honesty there. Thank you so much. Definitely. It moves on to my next question as well. There's two strands to this one. I'm going to ask you whether you concern yourself with the idea of legacy, and then I'm going to ask you to talk about how you feel about Adema's legacy now. So the first strand of that question is your legacy. Do you pay attention to it? How do you feel about that word? How does it roll off the tongue to you? Like, do you concern yourself with legacy, and what does it mean to you?
Fuck yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially as I'm getting older. I'm pretty vocal about, like when we're on tour or we're doing something uncomfortable and the guys are complaining and everyone's acting like a bitch. And I just look at everyone and I'm like, guys, you're going to be dead soon. You're going to be fucking dead.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like sooner than later. You actually are closer to death than you are to your birth.
Yeah.
And we're like past that. And look, we're all like young, like we can do shit. Like we're kind of badass. But you're going to die, and you better fucking buck up, because this is our legacy. We're putting the foundations in the thing that won't die. And that is our music, our performances, the way we affect people. And I definitely am looking at all of my music now as a catalog that will my kids will make money from, my family will make money from after I'm dead. It'll generate money for at least another 100 years, as much as music and publishing exists. Who knows how much longer it will exist. After that, I have no idea. Does it become public domain? Does the whole world change? Is there a nuclear war? Who fucking knows? Who cares? I can't concern yourself with this shit. That's what leads to depression and agonizing misery. You don't do that. You live now. So yeah, I'm super concerned with it. And I try to make it a motivator, not a thing to catastrophize over. And you do need to worry about that. I think that you need to be thinking about things that you're creating and how they're going to fit in your story. And I think that fans follow that. I think that it's important. You don't just want to just be shooting fucking shotgun blasts of nonsense everywhere. You want to think about what you're doing, but make it fun. A big thing that we do is, I was thinking about this when I was walking my dog this morning, and I was like, everything is hard. But one of the factors that we put into it is it fun too? And the answer is like, I literally make decisions. Okay, are we going to get paid? Is it the right thing to do? And is it fun?
Yeah.
Because if it's not fun and it's questionable and we're getting paid, no. So it's the same with the legacy thing. Like, we need to have a good time. We need to enjoy what we're doing. We're not here to be fucking miserable. We're here to find happiness. We're here to create awesome shit for people. We're here to interact and enjoy. We're here to learn. So all that factors into my legacy, because when someone tells my story later, I want it to be, if you're talking to those kids that you work with or whatever it is, I want it to be, hey, I have a lot of struggles. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. I'm a lot of bad things. But look at all this positive stuff that can happen, and look what you can do when you face your problems and deal with it and make it through the struggles. You know what I mean? I want that story to be my legacy, and I want the music to be a soundtrack for people to help get through those things.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, it must be cool to look back at, being able to, because you sound like you're very in tune with your ethics. You didn't stick around in Orgy when it didn't feel right. You got, you created Dead by Sunrise with Chester, your best friend, to build something new. Julien-K. It sounds like you really kind of. I don't want to go over the top and be like you found yourself, because that seems a little, it seems a little bit much. But it feels like you're really in touch with, like. You seem like a really happy person nowadays. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
But it seems
Yeah.
like you're a lot happier and you're very in tune with where you are ethically and morally and what you want to do.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on. I stopped drinking. I went to rehab. I put myself in a hospital for fucking 78 days of treatment. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was also the best thing that I ever did. And I'm not saying, who knows if I'll ever not drink again. I have no idea, but I can say that my life has been changed, and I have been able to focus, really heavily on my ethics and the things that make my life work and that make my art work. And it was something that we were zeroing in on even when I was drinking. I was a very functional alcoholic.
Right. Yeah.
I did a lot of, probably more than I'm doing now, which is probably part of the sickness. But we were zeroing in after Orgy and after all these things happened. We were really zeroing in on the ethics of what we're doing, the authenticity of what we're doing, making sure that our trajectory aligned us with the concept of doing things that our fans love, that we also love. So what does that mean? It means there's a lot of music that we write that probably just isn't going to make the cut because it just doesn't line up with what our fans love and what we love. It doesn't mean that it would never come out, whatever. Maybe it's just not called Julien-K or whatever these brands that we're doing. But we want to, instead of just saying, oh, we just want to please ourselves, we're artists, you have to understand us. No, we're acknowledging that we're in a relationship with our fans. And we need to do things that turn them on. And we have to be excited to turn them on. Yeah. And frankly, when you think like that, I'm not always naturally excited to do that. But when you go and look at you sit down at this computer in this studio and you pick one of these up, you have to start thinking about what you're doing and what story you're trying to tell, how you're going to connect with people, and that doctrine starts to influence you a lot. And that's what helps you stay on brand for like Julien-K. That's what helps me go into Adema and stay on brand for Adema, right? Because it's two very different things. And my singing in Adema is very different than my singing in Julien-K. And the songwriting and background singing in Dead by Sunrise is very different than Orgy and Julien-K. And the Orgy music, while there is much more similarities with Julien-K because it's more of a pure, it's kind of like just what we want to do. It's kind of like a handoff, because Orgy just stopped being Orgy, so we just kind of kept doing it. Yeah. So there is more of a relationship, but it is different. There's different mentalities that you adopt. So you have to use that doctrine. Like when I'm with Adema, I think, okay, I come from this too. This is a part of me. I'm not acting, but I have to tap into what this band is at its core. And what do the fans need, want, and deserve? Yes. And then I need to deliver that. Yeah. So there's some pressure, but you have to make it fun. Yeah. Otherwise you just sit here and you freak out. Oh my God, I can't sing like this. Oh, it's not, my soul is not, fuck your soul. You need to tap into what this stuff does. Otherwise, this is a hobby and it's not a business.
Interesting. Yeah, there's an interesting distinction there. And I want to go back to one of my earlier questions. I'm aware of just keeping an eye on the time about, the legacy of Adema. What I've seen on videos and comments is that because of your pedigree, because of where you come from, you walking into the Adema brand, people are digging it, man. People are into it. But how do you handle the Adema legacy? Because there's a lot there. There's a lot to work with there. How do you feel about the legacy of Adema and you taking on that pressure, like you mentioned there?
I think that they started something really amazing, and that's the
Yeah.
Adema that I fell in love with in the beginning. Like all my old friends from Bakersfield were all from the same place. And Dave DeRue and I were in a band together with Jonathan Davis 28 years ago, our very first band. So the roots are very, very deep. And apparently I don't know how to do Not Disturb.
It's
Hold on one
okay,
second.
man.
Um,
Don't worry.
there we go. The roots are really deep. And as they kind of got lost in the desert for a long time with all these different singers, there is some good music and some fans like that stuff. But for me, coming back in, being me, I really wanted to focus on what I think the core of the band is and the thing that made fans fall in love with them in the first place, and that's album 1 and 2. And so that's why our set is heavily album 1 and 2, and then the new stuff mixed in with me. And the new music with me has to be me honoring the core, the truth of the band. So this other stuff, maybe we'll play some of the songs here and there as something special at shows, but I'm not focusing on that. And I know some fans are like, oh, I love this song Planets, and I love this from Kill the Headlights. And I'm like, well, I get you. But, unfortunately, I'm thinking, or not unfortunately, but I'm actually thinking of a big thing, and I'm thinking of like, there's a good million people that bought these first 2 albums, more than a million. And I've got to create something that really bridges this gap, because there's all this noise in between. And then there's me. And when I enter something, it has to be like, whoa, Ryan Shuck got involved, and it's this. And that's what I like to do. That's what I like to do to a legacy. That's how I want to be defined. And it's really all I can do is come in, force these guys to focus on what I think is important, and force the whole, And by the way, what I'm selling isn't shit, so it's easy to sell. People agree with it and they want to do it. They're like, you're right. We got to get back to our roots. We got to do stuff that honors this, that really builds a bridge. We've got the entire original band together. Everyone's doing the shit that they do, and that hasn't happened since album 1 and 2. And then you've got a new singer who's channeling the feelings of being on the streets in Bakersfield and all the stuff we grew up with, which is why it sounds like it can belong on those albums without ripping it off. Yeah. All I'm doing is going like, hey, I'm from the same place. Let's channel that up and let's focus hard on those concepts. And it works, So what I'm describing is finding an authentic and honest way to honor where they came from. And hopefully history will write after the album comes out, and with how successful the singles have been and how good the shows have been, hopefully history will say, wow, this guy came in and did a smart thing.
Yeah.
He didn't just come in and remake it in his image. Because I can be a pervasive and powerful figure in a band if I want to be. Yeah. I can force a thing into my thing, but that's not what you do. You got to get in there and you got to get the whole band, really honoring and knowing where they came from. And then you got to set that as the agenda for Adema. And hopefully people look at it and go, wow, that was a really cool move. And the fans go, oh shit, he gives a shit about us. Yeah. And they listen to the music and the lyrics and they go, wow, but he's writing his own story. This is really cool.
Yeah, man. I can hear that passion for it, in you. And I think that's great to be where you're at and have the years of energy you've put into music and be passionate about taking Adema forward, which is wonderful. I do want to squeeze in a couple of questions. You do have the new record.
Okay. My appointment's not far away, so we're okay. Just as long as I can there by noon.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's cool. There is a new record, 360 Degrees of Separation, coming, which, is exciting. But and it does sound to me, if I've interpreted what you're saying right, you want to recreate that signature sound, but you're not going to be, I don't know if that sounds like I'm contradicting myself. You're not recreating that sound verbatim, but you're trying to honor it. You're trying to respect it. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. You just have to. It's a fine line and an interesting and difficult concept to grasp for a band sometimes. Like for example, if hell fucking froze over and the whole band decided we could do an album together, I wouldn't even do it if we didn't study Candy Ass.
Okay.
Yeah. Study it. Like, let's go back. Let's sit together and listen to it. Let's talk about what we were thinking. Let's talk about what we were feeling. Now, of course, we're not going to go back and rewrite it, but let's make sure we capture those the ideas and the spirit that we had. And, you know, the funny thing about musicians is that when you put Adema together on a stage, and this was actually a really fun thing when I joined the band, and I'm standing there getting ready to sing, front the band, and behind me is this group of, you know, tall dudes, and they start playing, and it sounds like a freight train's going to hit you, and it sounds like Adema. Yeah. And they're rocking, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to get hurt. You know, this is awesome. You know, and it's like, can you imagine being in Korn, for example? You're on stage. I have been on stage with Korn, and you're just like, motherfucker. You know, these guys are destroying. Or Rammstein. I've been on stage with Rammstein. You know, and it is a frightening experience, and I say that in the best way. Same with Adema. You know, these guys start playing, and what do you know? It sounds like Adema. So even when they're playing new songs, they still, because of the way they play, I know this sounds weird, but the way that they play and the way they play together makes it sound like Adema. Yeah. And so even if you're writing new material and you're really listening to the first two records just so you can remember the themes and remember like the relationships musically and everything, it's gonna harken back to it. You know, you're gonna have that feel. An interesting example would also be, you know, Amir and I and Julien-K are playing a different amp configuration, different guitars, everything that we played in Orgy. And we actually sometimes throw Blue Monday into our set just for honoring Orgy. We may throw other Orgy songs in. And when we play the opening riff, weirdly enough, we were in rehearsal and there were some of the technical people we work with. They all kind of looked up and they were just like shaking their heads and we're like, what? They're like, it's so weird. You guys are playing through completely different gear. But when you guys play that together, it sounds like it's a fucking dangerous sound. Like it's the way you're picking and the way you get the guitars to sound. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that like someone like Jay or something who, you know, I've seen interviews with him where he's like, well, the new band is better than the old band. I'm like, wow, way to miss the point. The point is not who can do a solo better. Yeah. The point synergy. Is, yeah, like the point is the way we all play and what we wrote, you know. It's like comparing Kurt Cobain with Yngwie Malmsteen. It's not even, Kurt Cobain dwarfs him in awesomeness. So who's the best player who can do a better solo is not the metric that we use. We use, when Amir and I play together, no matter what we do, you're going to hear Orgy. Even with Julien-K, people go, oh, wow, it just reminds me of Orgy, but it's all different music. And we hear that every fucking night. And obviously the reason is because me and Amir are playing and it fucking sounds like Orgy when we do that. You know, so it's the same as with Adema, you know, when these guys get together and they do their thing and it's the whole band. Keep in mind, all that middle stuff was only 4 of them or even sometimes 3 of them. So when that's the case, when it's the whole band and you've got a guy like me saying, hey, let's remember where we came from, you're going to get stuff that's really going to fire on those cylinders. You know, which I think is really fun, really cool.
Oh man, I'm so excited to see it when you do the European shows, and I'm going to ask about those in a second. You know, you do have a tour coming out, a Mammoth tour. You know, in the US, Nu Metal Revival. It's being dubbed. How do you feel about that? Because I guess you go quite far back with some of those bands, and it, you know, again from an outsider's perspective, it sounds like it's going to be great fun being out there with those bands and touring. How do you feel about, you know, being out there with Adema, you know, on this tour? I'm sure a lot of people are going to love it. There's still a lot of love for that nu metal genre and that vibe. How do you kind of feel about being on that tour and Adema's place on that?
I love it. And actually, you probably have, because of where you're at, you have some old info. We actually just got done with that tour in the US. Yeah. And the talk of it is that tour coming to Europe as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So we came up with Head PE and Crazy Town and all of these, you know, Flaw would be the only one that I never knew them before. But you're right, there is a big revival of this nu metal and there's a big respect for the pioneers of it, you know, obviously starting with Korn, but then also the Ademas, Head PE, and all these guys that did it, you know, did this for so long and that are still out being relevant bands. So I think it's awesome that I get to be part of it and that I get to do this with Adema because I'm not able to do it with Orgy, and which would definitely be one of the cornerstones of this. You know, we're definitely on this far end of like defining that genre. And I think it's really, really fun. And we did get along really well, and the shows went really well. And the head PE Adema vibe has been very, very strong.
Yeah, good.
Definitely.
Good. And you mentioned obviously moving that over to Europe and coming over. As far as you can tell me, because people will be interested in that, how are you looking forward to coming back over? Because you must have some great memories here as well
Yeah.
with Adema in this new, well, not new for you, but new for us to see you in that, UK fans, European fans to see you in that,
Yeah.
guys. How are you excited about that? And what can you tell me about, I appreciate there'll be some stuff under wraps, but what can you tell me about that, the possibility of you guys coming over?
Well, the talk of it is in February, which is awesome. I'm sure it's going to be really cold,
Yes,
but I
will.
don't care. I prefer cold to really hot. And yeah, I'm actually really excited about it because I've played in Europe as Julien-K and Dead by Sunrise, and I think that the rock fans in Europe it's a really cool thing, especially in the UK. And I'm looking forward to experiencing those markets under you doing this kind of music. I think it's just going to be a whole different experience for me. And it's doing Julien-K versus Adema is interesting because there's less people in Julien-K and it's more of this technical band. It's still big and it rocks and it's heavy and it's awesome. But in Adema, it's like it's 5 guys on stage making this noise, and it's just a really fun way to do it. So I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I want to just again squeeze in a couple of promo questions as we end. But yeah, one thing that struck me through this interview is you're talking about being out of your comfort zone, and you sound like you're still finding ways to push yourself out of your comfort zone and challenge yourself. Again, being in Adema and taking on that legacy, obviously going all the way back to forming Julien-K out of Orgy, being a part of Dead by Sunrise. And the pressures that come with that. Is that a fair assessment? I know we've only spoken for 30 minutes, but would it be accurate for me to say that you do actively look for ways to push yourself even now out of your comfort zone?
Yeah, it's my entire ethos. It's my whole idea for moving forward in life is to constantly be uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong, there is comfort and there is, I have a nice bed and, but it's, that the entire, especially again, becoming sober, getting older and still functioning at a 21-year-old level, is about constantly going like, we look at something, oh yeah, that's going to be hard. And I go, okay, well, then let's do it. So it could be, there's a variety of things that we do. It could be, I'm doing a huge remodel here at the house, and, turns out painting your house is really fucking hard, and I don't really have time to do it. But, lo and behold, yesterday, I was in my funk and everything. I'm like, well, let's just paint half of this. Let's just do it. Let's get it going. And it's hard, and I'm hurting, and it sucks, and and it's the same as going to the gym and going to jiu-jitsu and all the kind of stuff that you do, and doing new music and all this stuff. Yeah, it's a constant. You do have to sort of fall in love with looking for difficult things to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And to finish off, not that I want to enable you, because I know you mentioned trying not to take on so many projects, restaurants, and all that stuff. What other projects have you got going on at the minute? Where do you want to send people? What do you want to plug? Have you managed to slim it down, or have you still got a million things going on?
Well, we sold one restaurant. I got out of another one, so I had 5. So now it looks like I have 3, and I'll probably have 2 soon. So that's a big deal. We're actually going to close one after 25 years. Like it's been announced, so I forget that I can say it. So I think 2 is going to be a lot better. It's just been a crazy journey. So, I really try not to focus a lot on those, and try to focus on my art, my music, and our videos and songs and all that kind of stuff. Got a lot of touring coming up, both Julien-K and Adema. There's talk of even Julien-K in Europe next year as well.
Nice.
And the band that we're talking about doing it with are friends of ours. We've been doing a lot of stuff with them, but it's not in stone yet. So we're kind of working on it. And that's all good. Julien-K has a bunch of music in the mixer. Adema's going to get an album. We're going to do an Indiegogo campaign, so I need everyone to jump in and actually contribute to that so that we can have the same story as Julien-K. Julien-K's raised like 150 grand on Indiegogo, so we're like bigger than any record deal. You know, it's just amazing, and that's direct with our fans. If Adema can get into that world, then we can just keep doing this independently and crank out music that our fans love at a really high level. And that's really the things I'm focusing on. Julien-K has an amazing Patreon that we do every week. Every Sunday morning, if you're a member of our Patreon, we do events in here. This setup is part of our setup. I have multiple cameras and I can control them all. And we do live song breakdowns. We do instructional stuff. We do kind of campfire hangouts. We do live performances, and we do this every week. So, you know, it's not all week long. We're not dropping bullshit on you all week. You know, it's not ridiculous, but there's a cool event, and then we release kind of unreleased stuff throughout the week and all that kind of stuff. And it all helps us. I mean, we pay the bills and keep the lights on through that support.
Absolutely, man. I'm so excited for your future. Obviously, a lot of legacy there. So, you know, congratulations on everything you have done and are yet to do, man. And thank you so much for making the time. I know you don't do many interviews, so I appreciate this.
Thank you
So much.